everyone, welcome back to Katarina's Garage. My name is Katarina Lloyd, and today we're actually checking out IPull-uPull. As always, you guys know this place very well if you're a fan of my channel, because I come here a lot, and it's always fun to walk the yard and to see what's all out there. So anyways, let's go take a look. So these are all the vehicles that they will sell full. So let's start with this Monte Carlo. So this is the last of the cool Monte Carlos, in my opinion, even though that, yes, these are front wheel drive, and this one isn't an SS, so that means it does not have the 3.8 supercharged, or even, I believe they put the LS4s in these as well, which made, it was essentially a 5.3 LS that was a front wheel drive, right, orientation. And they made, just over 300 horsepower, and these things were an absolute rocket. But even with the 3.8 supercharged, they had about 240, and they actually moved pretty well. And if you look, the shape is very aerodynamic, right? And this is one of the slipperiest cars that Chevrolet ever produced. But unfortunately, this was a short-lived model, at least for this design, and they ended up killing it off after about 6 model years of this design, if I remember correctly. Could be... I might be wrong on that exact number, but somebody will have to tell me. But it's pretty cool. And actually, it does have an SS wing, so that's pretty cool. Although it's a limited edition, so maybe that's why it has that little spoiler. But it's pretty neat. Up next, we have this cool old... this is so it's kind of funny because they deleted all the badges. But this is a Grand Marquis. It's a 2000. Mercury Grand Marquis. So this is on the Panther platform, which was one of the longest running platforms actually ever. The Panther platform existed from, I think it was 73, 74, maybe a little earlier than that, right up until 2011. And with the Crown Victoria police package, and also these as well. But actually, no, Mercury died after 2004. That's right. So it would have been with the Lincoln Town cars as well until those years. But they're pretty cool. And obviously with the rear air suspension and everything, these are a very comfortable car, body on frame, amazing cars, honestly. So now, and here we have an EG or an EK Civic. It's a 97, so I think that's an EK. And indeed it is. So it's actually pretty cool to see these, and these are a very popular car. Now, this one obviously definitely has had a decent amount of rust there, and that's a lot of Bondo, you can see, and not done very well. But they're very, very common for them to rust out like that. This should have it's either a D series or a B series engine in it. It's got hood pins, which is a little interesting. I've never seen a hood pin quite of that design. Usually the button is a little bigger, but that is very interesting. However, this one with only 243K on it, for $2,200 is not a terrible price, It's not automatic though, but it's cool. So let's see what else they got around here. Something you don't see too often in the junkyard. I mean, you can, but not always. This is a 8th generation Honda Civic coupe, which is pretty cool to actually see these around, or at least I think it's a Civic. It might be the Acura version, which if it's the Acura... No, it is a Honda Civic. It's no 6. There you go. Now, that's funny. They had a Hellcat sticker on this. I love it. Or a badge, I guess. Gotta love that. And what's really neat, though, is it's yeah, you can chop apart an entire car like that. They'll let you do it. And so this one obviously had a front-end collision and the airbag went off. The seats aren't horrible. Definitely workable for somebody if they want seats for their Honda or even their old project. And, they'd be decently comfortable and they'd hold you around the turns. Now, this is going to have... Is this the iVTEC? No, this is just the standard Honda engine. Because they had the VTEC and then they had the iVTEC. The iVTEC had, it was the VTEC technology, but the cam was a lot smaller. So it only produced, an extra, I think it was, 5 horsepower versus, the 20 or so that the VTECs would have done. But it's pretty neat to see, actually. All right, now check this out. So, and there's one of those here too. So hang on, I will show you guys that, because that's a lot cooler than what this is, in my opinion. Even though, yes, this is a Volvo 840. It is a 94. So this is a brick, you know, of a Volvo. These were like indestructible cars, to be honest. And its predecessor, the 240, was, at least at the time, a pretty safe car, but later on, nowhere near. However, they used, if I remember correctly, and somebody can correct me if I'm wrong, but from what I heard, that the Volvo 240 was actually used for United States crash test safety for like their minimum requirement for years afterwards. So it's kind of interesting. At least that's what I've heard. I could be wrong on that, but pretty cool. Here we have a Lada Niva. Now this one's 94. Really? That late? Huh? And it is a stick, so that's cool. So these weren't good cars. But when they did run, it was probably the best Soviet-era car they ever made. Now, this engine sounds like a tractor, and to be honest, it pretty much is a tractor, 4-cylinder engine. It doesn't produce that much power, but you can go off-roading in this with relative ease, and it'll take any punishment you give to it. But they were prone to a little bit of electrical issues, even though they're not that... There isn't that much involved, and oh, jeez, that smells really bad in there. Woo, woo, woo. Love the smell of mice, don't you? But yeah, pretty cool to see in here. So if you need parts for a Lada Niva, this one has plenty on it. Now here we go. So this is a Suzuki Sidekick, which is the most badge engineered car on the planet. So there was over 13 different variants of this vehicle, and I believe there were 6 of them here in Canada, because we got the Pontiac version and something called the Asuna and the GMC version, plus the Chevrolet and the Geo, right, at the very least. So that's 5. We may have had one more, but I'm not too sure. These were made all over the planet, and they're pretty cool to find, honestly. And these were a great little off-roader, very reliable and stuff, and I dig it. I like it. Hey, look, a Honda CR-V. Let me guess. It's already open. Yeah, the tables are never here. I want one. Like, I want to find one in the junkyard so bad of one of those CR-V tables, and I'd use it. Just use it. So yeah, these are actually very popular cars, to be honest, because people love the CR-Vs. And they are a very reliable vehicle. Parts are cheap. And also, they were just, like I said, like, just extremely reliable. And they got pretty decent fuel economy, too. Like, they get, like, high 20s, if I remember correctly, at the time. So, it's not bad, honestly. Uses, I believe, Honda V6s and potentially 4-bangers too, but I'm not 100% aware of that. But pretty cool. Okay, so retract my previous statement of the 8th gen Civic, because I found like about 3 or 4 of them in here. So I thought they were a little rarer than that in the junkyard, but I guess not. Ooh, Prelude. Now the H22 is gone, not surprising. They're actually kind of a coveted engine. This is a 98, and most of the interior is gone. This was a, I guess it's just an automatic, but pretty cool. You know, still lots of its parts, and like, you want any of the ECU stuff or any of the computerized stuff, it's all right there. Holy crap, there's a lot of it. And this car obviously was red originally, then somebody painted it gray. But at one point, this is somebody's pride and joy, and these are a pretty decent vehicle, honestly. You know, and they're fun too, so kind of sad to see it in here. But at least its parts are being used, so that's good at least. Here we go. How about an 80s Buick LeSabre, I believe. 4-door. This is kind of neat. You know, small block underneath the hood. Distributor up front, though? Huh? I'm used to GM Motors being distributor in the back, so somebody will have to educate me on that. Okay, it's a 350 Buick engine. Okay, that's why. Because yeah, the Buicks, the Pontiacs, I believe, and Maybe the Oldsmobiles had them up front, potentially. So, but I don't know that for sure. I'm surprised to see a Buick 350 this late. I mean, mind you, this might be 70s, but I think it's like 80s. But this is pretty neat, honestly. It's in good shape overall. And it is a LeSabre. There you go. I guess right. Haha. Because when I first saw this, I thought it was a, oh, what did I think this was? Wasn't thinking Buick at all. I was thinking like Caprice or something. But then I saw the grill. I'm like, nope, that is definitely a Buick. Pretty cool. It's actually in decent shape. Kind of sad to see it in here. So, and all the classics, you know, from the AMC Ambassador to the Ford Contour, I believe, to an old Caddy from the 50s, to a Lincoln Mark V. You know, there's, whoa, a lot of stuff in there. Or, correction, I think this might be a Mark IV. I can't remember. Mark V or Mark IV? Mark IV, it's 76. Because 77, 78, 79 is Mark V. So, they did them in like 3-year segments usually, 3 or 4. But yeah, this thing, and still, look what it still has. That 9-inch with the rear discs. It's still sitting here. It's amazing. I was tempted to pull this myself for my truck. Then I realized, wait, my truck is an 8-lug. So that wouldn't work out very well. But I know it'd be the perfect length to put in a truck, though. And that's an awesome upgrade for any vehicle. Now, you would need a different master cylinder for it. But well worth it. But yeah, there's all the different stuff in here. You know, that Corvair's still here. And let me guess, the motor's probably still there, right? And it's kind of sad because this was a fatality of a vehicle. Very depressing. And, yep, still there. Somebody covered it up, though, which is nice because it wasn't covered up last time I was here. So, because this was apparently like a fresh rebuilt motor. And then the guy was on the test drive and got front-ended, you know, like that. And yeah, unfortunately, he passed, but I'm not overly surprised. Like, just look at the carnage, right? And it is sad, but sometimes that's just how life goes, right? Here we have, oh hey, a Maverick with a straight 6 in it. That looks like a 250. Just looking at the deck height of it, it's pretty tall. But actually, water pump with 4 bolts. Yep, that is a 250. There you go. So that is pretty cool. So this would be actually a engine for somebody to pick up if they want an old straight 6 Ford motor. Let's see, was that correct? Yes, it was. That is a 250. There you go. And still lots of usable parts on it. I wonder if that fuel pump's any good, because it'd be the same for my 200, but I don't know. Well, I don't think I'll grab that. And you can see, actually, this had points on it, right? It's not an electronic ignition, so this is an early one then. Because they went to the Ford Duraspark by like 76, I think, so this would be like a 74? Maybe 73? Pretty cool. Non-power brake car. Did have power steering, though, but that's gone. And, you know, the Maverick was a cool little car. Or is this a Comet or a Maverick? It is a Maverick, and it's a 73. Okay. There we go. So that makes sense. Even having all your controls over here, which is interesting, you know, versus being like in the middle, so the dash is just bare, right? Bench seat, front and rear, 4-door. What's not to love? Other than all the rust and mouse turds and whatever else is in it. But overall, pretty cool cars. And my first car could have actually been a 2-door 71. And it is unfortunate because at the time, a guy was giving one away on Kijiji. And then unfortunately, well, I didn't know. It was in Alex, Alberta years ago. It didn't have a drivetrain in it. And my uncle not only lives in Alex, but also had a 351 Windsor he could have put in it. That could have been my first car. Instead, I got my 81 Mustang, and that launched my YouTube career. So there's that. And then all the rest of the classics around here, right? You guys have seen them if you've seen my channel. I just didn't realize that Maverick had a straight 6 in it, because I never really looked at it too closely. So, pretty cool, though. Let's see what else we can find. Actually, you know, if I found a decent long box in the junkyard, I might just grab it. Because the one thing is, I do know that even this generation would fit my 76. Apparently, they bolt in the same way. So, but yeah, we shall see. I doubt I'll find one in here, though. I seriously doubt it. So, I found something hiding in the corner over here. So, this is an 86 Honda Accord coupe, which is really damn cool to find the 2 doors. They didn't make very many of them. They were mostly 4 doors, so this is kind of a rare sight, and it's kind of sad to see it in here. Because, yes, it does have the rust, and I'm sure there's probably a bunch of issues with it, but this was a cool car in its day. And it is a stick. You know, got all of its interior still here. It had 407,000 kilometers on it before it ended up in here, which is unfortunate, but it is what it is. Now, this engine would have only made like 90 horsepower, maybe, not a ton. My dad actually, he had an 87 for a little while. Well, actually, he was borrowing it off my uncle, but it was a BC registered car, so he was going to potentially get it himself. But then it was rotted out so bad that there was no way it was going to pass it out of province. So I ended up giving it back to my uncle. And I don't know what happened, but it had a JDM swap engine, so it made like 110 horsepower. The thing was an absolute little rocket. It was fun. It was 4-door, sunroof and everything. Love that car. Well, I found... I mean, I could do this, but I'm not going to do that. So it's like an F250, F350 maybe. It's a 75, so... similar to my truck. Mine's a 76. Decent hood, actually. I mean, a little dent in it, but not bad. You know? Little dent in the front bumper, and unfortunately, one of the rivets, there's a hole there, but beyond that, there's decent parts on it. So if anybody's looking for stuff, let's see, is it a stick or an automatic? It is, or probably was a stick, but it's gone now, so... I'm assuming this is a big block truck. Probably a 460 with the NP 435 4-speed in it. Pretty cool. Ooh, O2 Avalanche with actually looking pretty decent. Now it's missing the cladding on the bumper, but case in point, what the cladding covers up is all this rust. It's awful on these trucks. Because that cladding, all it does is just rot it right out, right? So, I mean, this one obviously was T-boned. But these are fantastic trucks. You just have to watch their transmissions because they have a 4L Slippy in them, aka the 4L60. If you do some work to them, they can be a decent transmission, but you know, however, these all had 5.3s, or depending on if it's a 3/4 ton, they could have an 8.1 liter, I believe. Big ass motor. It was a 496 big block. So I know those engines are kind of coveted because they are essentially a 454, but like stroked out. So pretty cool. All right, well, unfortunately, I'm running out of time and energy at the same time to do this. So I appreciate you all watching the video, though. This is actually, it was fun. And I always love coming to the junkyard, right? It's very fun. As always, thank you for watching. You guys are amazing. Stay tuned for more content. And also, well, if you look down in the description, you'll see a couple of links and a couple of discount codes. Both of them are the same code, which is KAT15, all in caps. One will get you 15% off Oxido. The other one will get you 15% off with Flash Shark Racing. And Flash Shark Racing, as you guys know, is like, I've worked with them a decent bit, and going to continue to work with them as much as I can in the future. But yeah, so anyways, and hopefully to work with Oxido a lot more too, because they sent me out some LEDs that are probably going to go in my Mustang. They were going to go in the truck, but I think I'm going to put them in the Mustang instead. So anyways, take care, and I'll catch you in the next one. Peace out.